Welcome to our chat. Today we're diving into a debate on global power, the idea that the future is in China, not the US.
Yeah,
It's a hot topic among Western scholars these days.
absolutely. It's so intriguing. What's your take on this notion that Western intellectuals are reflecting on US missteps compared to China's successes?
The discussion really centers on how Western scholars now re-examine what the US has done wrong, like its inconsistent policies and short-term approaches, while genuinely applauding what China has done right. They point to China's long-term planning and its infrastructure investments.
That definitely flips the script a bit. So it's not just about traditional propaganda, it's more deep rooted reflections on policy outcomes, right?
Exactly. It's not superficial. The conversation, as seen on China Now, which is reportedly China's most watched current affairs show, goes into some serious depth. Zhang Weiwei and Ben Norton, for example, examine how the West is rethinking its own history in light of China's policies.
Right. So they're essentially saying that the US has a history of short sighted decisions, and those mistakes are now being recognized, while China's systematic approach is getting the thumbs up.
Yeah, it's they're contrasting two distinct narrative arcs, one that's been steeped in Western exceptionalism and another that is built on steady, long-term strategy.
Yeah,
This approach forces everyone to rethink what success in governance looks like on the global stage.
interesting. But do they discuss any specific examples of what the US did wrong? Like, are there concrete policies mentioned?
They do, actually. The discussion touches on Trump's tariffs and other policies that, according to some scholars, disrupted economic balance. It's almost an implicit admission that while those policies might have been aimed at protecting certain industries, they ended up backfiring on larger economic stability.
And what about China? How do they paint China's picture in contrast?
They highlight China's emphasis on long-term investments, robust infrastructure, and a governance model that ostensibly prioritizes state control for sustained growth. It's like building a house on a solid foundation rather than a patchwork of quick fixes.
Yeah, that analogy makes sense. But doesn't that also raise concerns about freedom and the potential downsides of a state controlled model?
That's a good point. And honestly, some scholars do question whether the Chinese model is flawless. They suggest that while China's approach delivers efficiency in some ways, it also comes with the trade-off of reduced political freedoms.
Exactly.
So, the discussion is more nuanced than just a simple win versus loss scenario.
Right? It's a delicate balance. And I noticed there was also mention of how the video content itself is produced, like using auto-dubbed audio tracks. Does that affect the conversation in any way?
Yeah, the production aspect is interesting. The auto-dubbed audio means the content is accessible in multiple languages, which shows an effort to reach a broader audience. Although it might not capture all the subtleties of the original tone, the message still resonates.
It's kind of a tech upgrade that underpins the global ambition of the platform, isn't it?
Exactly, it's like a signal that China is not just flexing politically but also technologically, ensuring that its voices are heard worldwide regardless of language barriers.
Speaking of global voices, how do you think this reflection impacts the broader geopolitical discourse?
Well, the core idea is provocative. It challenges the old narrative where the US was virtually untouchable. Instead, these reflections invite us to reassess global power dynamics and understand that success can be built on very different foundations. It pushes the
Right.
conversation beyond simple binaries.
It sure does. But don't you think there's a risk in swinging too far in one direction? I mean, critics might argue that praising China too much overlooks its own issues.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. While the conversation highlights China's effective policies, it doesn't completely ignore the complexities of its system. In fact, some of the scholars urge a balanced reflection, appreciating the robust infrastructure and planning while still acknowledging the downsides of strict state control.
I like that, balancing the pros and cons without resorting to hyperbole. It's crucial to dissect both sides critically.
Definitely. Think of it like evaluating two recipes. One might have a dash of innovation and freedom, while the other relies on a time-tested, albeit sometimes rigid method. Each has its flavor, but they serve different palates and purposes.
Right. That's a neat analogy. And by the way, what do you think about the impact of such shows on Western scholarly thought? Surely it must shake up some long held beliefs.
For sure, when Western scholars begin to reflect on what the US might have mishandled, it stirs a lot of critical debates. It's like they're being forced to consider that perhaps their traditional free market approach isn't the only path to prosperity.
It's a paradigm shift, right? Especially given that these reflections are coming from respected figures in academia.
Absolutely. And that's what really makes the conversation compelling. By questioning the status quo, these discussions open up space for new policy considerations and global strategies. It's almost like a wake up call for a new era of international relations.
Yeah, and it seems like these debates also bring to light the different cultural and political narratives at play. The Western narrative is challenged by the Chinese perspective, creating a sort of intellectual tug of war.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that this tug of war isn't just academic, it's reaching millions. With view counts like 42,000 on this episode alone, it's clear that these ideas are captivating a wide audience.
Right. That's impressive reach. It shows that people are hungry to explore these dynamics beyond the headlines.
Absolutely. The popularity of the show, China Now, signals a shift in what people want to know about global politics. It's not just sensational drama, it's a deeper dive into the structural elements that power societies.
There's definitely a trend towards more reflective and analytical content these days. It's like, instead of accepting one dominant narrative, listeners are demanding a spectrum of viewpoints.
Exactly. And that kind of intellectual diversity is essential. It reminds us that global affairs are complex and that no single model perfectly fits every
Right,
context.
indeed. I really appreciate the nuance here. But let me ask you, how do you see these debates influencing future policies in both the US and China?
It's hard to predict exactly, but these debates might encourage policymakers to take lessons from each other. Think of it like a cross pollination of ideas. The US might adopt some of China's long term planning strategies, while China could perhaps integrate more flexibility, drawing from Western democratic ideals.
That sounds like a recipe for global evolution, a kind of hybrid model of governance that factors in the best from both worlds.
Yes, though it's easier said than done, these systems are deeply embedded in their respective cultures and histories. Still, this discussion is important because it paves the way for these kinds of transformative thoughts.
Absolutely. And even if the solutions aren't straightforward, the dialogue itself is a positive step toward challenging long held assumptions.
Exactly. It's about pushing boundaries and not settling for the traditional narrative. In a way, it's like rewriting the manual on global leadership.
Right. I love that imagery. It really illustrates the dynamic evolution of world politics.
Yeah, it's an invitation for all of us, whether academics or everyday listeners, to think critically about how different policy frameworks succeed or fail. It's a conversation that doesn't really end, it evolves as the world
Indeed.
does.
This has been a deeply engaging discussion. I'm really left with a lot to think about regarding how nations learn from their pasts and shape their futures.
Absolutely. And while it's a bold claim to say the future is in China, it certainly challenges the status quo and makes us ask tough questions about what the next chapter in global affairs looks like.
Right on. Thanks for walking through this with me. It's always a pleasure to explore these intricate ideas and see how they resonate with global audiences.
The pleasure's all mine. These discussions remind us that while we may deeply disagree on specifics, engaging with diverse perspectives is key to a well-rounded worldview.
Yeah, totally. Looking forward to our next conversation. Until then, let's keep questioning and rethinking the stories of our time.
Agreed. Catch you next time for another deep dive into global ideas and the ever-evolving narratives that shape our world.